The pipe burst like a gunshot in the dead of night, flooding my kitchen in a torrent of icy water that soaked through the floorboards and straight into my dreams. I stumbled downstairs in nothing but boxers and a faded husky's tee, cursing the gods of old houses as the deluge turned my world into a shallow, shivering lake. And there, knee-deep in the chaos, was him. Uninvited, unannounced, wrench in hand, his voice cutting through the roar like a lifeline. "Easy now, I've got this. Name's Riley. You called about a leak." I froze, water lapping at my calves, my heart slamming harder than the faucet's frantic spray. Riley Callahan, the emergency plumber I dialed in a panic at 2 a.m., looked like he'd stepped out of one of those gritty Seattle indie films. Broad shoulders under a flannel shirt rolled to his elbows, dark hair tousled from the rain outside, and eyes the color of Puget Sound after a storm, gray-green and unflinching. He was maybe 30, built like he hauled lumber on weekends, with a faint scar hooking his left eyebrow that made him look equal parts rugged and haunted. "You Alex?" he asked, already twisting the shut-off valve with practiced ease, his voice carrying that easy Pacific Northwest drawl, all vowels stretched like taffy. "Yeah," I managed, voice cracking like the porcelain under his boot. "Alex Harper. Sorry about all this." The water slowed to a trickle, then stopped, leaving us in the sudden, dripping silence of my drowned domain. He straightened, wiping his hands on his jeans, and flashed a grin that hit me like caffeine after a 12-hour shift. Crooked, genuine, the kind that said he'd seen worse floods than this. Little did I know, in that moment, standing ankle-deep in my unraveling life, that Riley wasn't just here to patch pipes. He was about to crack open the dam I'd built around my heart, one wrench turn at a time. By dawn, the kitchen was a sopping battlefield of towels and overturned buckets, but the crisis was contained. Riley had stayed longer than necessary, not just fixing the rupture but rigging a temporary patch that'd hold till the pros could come in daylight. "Old house like this," he'd said, tapping the exposed pipe under the sink. "Built in the 20s, right? They don't make 'em like they used to. Solid, but finicky as hell." I'd nodded, perched on a stool, nursing a mug of reheated coffee that tasted like regret. My place was a craftsman bungalow in Capitol Hill, the kind of spot that screamed, single guy in his late 20s trying to adult. Cluttered bookshelves groaning under dog-eared sci-fi novels, a half-dead fiddle-leaf fig by the window, and walls painted that moody gray I'd picked out after the breakup, thinking it'd hide the emptiness. We talked, or rather, he talked and I listened, mesmerized by the way his hands moved. Calloused, sure, like they knew their way around more than just brass fittings. Born and raised in Tacoma, he'd apprenticed under his uncle after high school, dodging the family logging business because chainsaws and I don't get along. Too much noise, not enough quiet. Divorced? No, never married. But he'd let slip a story about a college fling in Pullman that ended in a bar fight and a black eye, laughing it off like it was yesterday's weather. I didn't mention my own wreckage. The fiancé who'd bailed 2 years back, right after law school graduation, citing irreconcilable differences that boiled down to him wanting kids and me wanting, well, anything but the white picket fence lie. As the sky lightened to that bruised lavender Seattle dawn, Riley packed his tools, slinging his bag over one shoulder. "Bills on the counter, emergency rates, but I knocked off the call-out fee. You look like you could use a break." His eyes lingered a beat too long, tracing the damp cling of my shirt to my chest, and I felt heat bloom under my skin that had nothing to do with the coffee. "Hey," I said, impulsive as the flood. "You want breakfast? I make a mean scramble. Oh, you won." He hesitated, that scar twitching like it remembered old wounds, then nodded. "Twist my arm, but only if there's bacon." That morning stretched into something dangerously close to normal. We ate at the Butcher Block Island, plates piled with eggs fluffy from too much butter, strips of thick-cut bacon curling like secrets. He asked about my job, public defender down at the courthouse, buried in pro bono cases for folks the system chewed up and spat out. "Sounds noble," he said, fork pausing midair. "Exhausting, too. You ever think about getting out?" I shrugged, poking at my food. "Every day. But someone's gotta fight the good fight, right?" He leaned back, arms crossed, studying me like I was a blueprint he couldn't quite read. Yeah, well, sometimes the fight finds you first. By the time he left, the rain had picked up again, drumming the roof like impatient fingers. He scribbled his number on a napkin. For when this beast acts up again, and clapped my shoulder, his touch lingering warm through the chill. I watched him jog to his truck, taillights blurring into the downpour, and something in my chest unclenched, just a fraction. It was nothing, I told myself. Just a plumber. Just a flood. But as I mopped the last puddles, the house felt less like a tomb and more like a place where leaks could be fixed. The next week blurred into the usual grind. Courtrooms thick with stale coffee and desperate pleas. Late nights poring over case files under the hum of my desk lamp. My ex, Jordan, had texted once. Some half-assed, "Hope you're good," that I deleted without reply. He'd moved to Portland, chasing venture capital dreams, leaving me with the house and a ghost of what-ifs. But Riley lingered like the faint scent of his soap, clean and cedar sharp, invading my thoughts during depositions and jogs along Lake Washington. Then the dishwasher rebelled. One evening, after a 12-hour day defending a kid on a bogus possession charge, I flipped the switch and it gurgled like a dying beast, spewing suds across the tile. Cursing, I grabbed my phone, thumb hovering over that napkin number I'd tucked into my wallet like a talisman. "Riley? It's Alex. From the flood. Got a situation here." He arrived in under 30, rain-slicked and apologetic for the wait. Wedding gig ran late, aunt's side of the family, total circus. I didn't ask. Instead, I poured him a beer from the six-pack I'd impulse bought that afternoon, and we settled into the routine. This time, the fix was quick. A clogged impeller, nothing major. But he stuck around, cracking open that second beer, and we talked for real. About the city, how Seattle's boom had priced out the artists and blue-collars, turning Fremont into a tech bro playground. About family. His dad, a stoic vet who'd passed last year, leaving behind a garage full of half-finished birdhouses. Mine, scattered across the Midwest, too busy with their own dramas to notice I'd gone quiet. "You ever feel like you're yelling into the void?" I asked, staring at the foam circling my bottle. Riley's gaze sharpened, that gray-green pulling me in. "All the time, but voids echo back sometimes. You just gotta listen." As October deepened, the calls multiplied. Not just emergencies, but, "Hey, this faucet's dripping," and "Think the heater's acting up?" Each visit blurred the line between service and something softer. He'd bring takeout from that hole-in-the-wall faux spot in the U District, or we'd walk to the market for fresh cider, boots crunching leaves under a canopy of turning maples. One night, after wrestling a stubborn garbage disposal back to life, we ended up on the porch swing, stars punching through the cloud cover like defiant fireflies. His knee brushed mine, accidental at first, then not, and the air thickened with unspoken static. "Tell me something true," he murmured, voice low against the rustle of wind. I swallowed, heart thudding. "I'm scared. Of this. Of wanting more than I can fix." His hand found mine in the dark, fingers lacing rough and real. "Who says you have to fix it alone?" The kiss that followed was tentative, tasting of salt and cider, his stubble grazing my jaw like a promise. It deepened slow, unhurried, the world narrowing to the press of his chest, the sigh he let out against my lips. We didn't rush. Hell, we barely moved, just sat there swaying, lips brushing, breath sinking like we'd been waiting for this our whole lives. Fall folded into winter with its usual ferocity. Sheets of rain lashing the windows, holidays looming like uninvited relatives. Riley became a fixture, his truck a familiar shadow in the driveway, his laugh echoing off the rafters. We built a rhythm. Mornings tangled in sheets that smelled of him, coffee brewed strong and black, stolen hours before he headed to jobs across the Sound. He'd trace the freckles across my collarbone with calloused fingertips, murmuring nonsense about constellations, while I'd bury my face in the crook of his neck, inhaling the steady beat of his pulse like it was oxygen. It wasn't perfect, but it felt like salvation. I'd wake to his notes on the counter. Gone to unclog a nightmare in Ballard. Dinner's on me. Love are. And the word love hit like sunlight after months of gray. My cases lightened. That kid from the possession charge walked, and for the first time in years, I celebrated with more than takeout solitude. We hiked Discovery Park one crisp November Saturday, boots sinking into mud, hands clasped against the bite of wind off the strait. At the lighthouse, with waves crashing below like applause, he dropped to one knee. Not for a ring, but to tie my loose lace, grinning up at me with that scarred mischief. Can't have you tripping into the drink. I'd fish you out, but paperwork's a bitch. Laughter bubbled up, free and fierce, and I pulled him to his feet, kissing him salty and deep, the world a blur of blue and boundless. Your trouble, Callahan. He smirked, tugging me closer. The best kind. That night, back in the bungalow, we slow danced in the living room to Coulter Wall on vinyl, his chin on my shoulder, bodies swaying like we'd invented gravity. It was romantic without the cheese, raw, real, the kind of love that sneaks up and rewires you from the inside. But shadows crept in with the solstice. Riley's phone buzzed more at odd hours. Texts he silenced with a flick of his thumb. Work stuff, he'd say. But his jaw tightened, that scar pulling taut. I didn't push. Trust was a muscle we were both rebuilding. Mine scarred by Jordan's ghost, his by whatever Tacoma winters had etched into his bones. Then came the first crack. A Saturday morning, me scrolling briefs on the couch while he tinkered with the radiator in the hall. His ex called Mark, a name dropped casual as shrapnel. Old crew from the shop, Riley explained later, over pancakes gone cold. Wants to grab a beer, catch up. No big deal. I nodded, but doubt slithered in cold and coiling. Mark wasn't just crew. A quick, stupid Google later. Blame insomnia. Revealed photos from a going-away party last spring. Riley and a broad-shouldered guy with a lumberjack beard, arms slung around each other, eyes lit with something that looked a lot like unfinished business. I deleted the history, shoved it down, but the seed was planted. Was this real or just another fix-up job? The holidays amplified it. My folks flew in from Ohio, all Midwestern cheer and probing questions over turkey at the Pike Place roast stand. So, Alex seeing anyone? Mom asked, eyes twinkling as she carved slices. I glanced at Riley, dishing out gravy with that easy grin, and managed, yeah, this is Riley. He's great. Dad clapped his back too hard, muttering about good hands on a man, while Mom pulled me aside later, whispering, he looks at you like you're the only room in the house. We escaped to a New Year's bash in Belltown, fireworks exploding over the Ferris wheel. His arms around me as we toasted with cheap champagne. To leaks and fixes, he murmured, clinking glasses. And whatever floods next. January brought ice storms, the kind that glazed the city in treacherous silver. Riley's truck got stuck twice hauling supplies to a site in West Seattle, and he'd crash on my couch those nights, too wiped to drive back to his apartment in Georgetown. We'd talk till the wee hours about dreams deferred, his to open a small contracting outfit specializing in eco-renos, mine to maybe teach law at the UW someday. You'd be killer at it, he'd say, propping on an elbow, hair sleep-tousled, changing lives one lecture at a time. I'd trace his scar, asking its origin story for the 100th. A bar brawl in college, defending a buddy from a homophobic slur. Worth it, he'd shrug. Some things you don't let slide. But the calls from Mark persisted, now laced with urgency. One blizzard night, as snow piled against the panes, Riley's phone lit up again. He stepped into the kitchen, voice low and clipped. What the hell, man? I told you it's done. Silence stretched, then a crash, him slamming the cabinet, knuckles white. I found him at the sink, staring out at the whiteout, shoulders hunched like a man bracing for avalanche. Everything okay? I ventured, hand on his back. He turned, eyes stormy. Mark's in trouble. Lost his job, spiraling. Thinks I owe him a lifeline 'cause we were. He trailed off, pain etching lines around his mouth. Ancient history, Alex. Swear it. I believed him, mostly. Pulled him into a hug, feeling the tremor in his frame, whispering, You've got me. We're in this. We made love then, slow and anchoring, bodies moving like waves reclaiming shore. Afterward, tangled in quilts, he confessed fragments. Mark had been his first real love, college sweethearts who'd crashed hard when the logging life pulled Mark east. I thought I was over it, but ghosts don't pipe wrench easy. I kissed his temple, tasting salt. We'll exorcise em together. February thawed the ice but not the undercurrent. My caseload spiked. A wrongful conviction appeal that had me burning midnight oil. And Riley's gigs stretched longer, bids for bigger contracts pulling him to Everett. We stole weekends. A cabin rental up in the Olympics, where we snowshoed till our legs gave out, collapsing by the fire with mugs of spiked cocoa. There, under a quilt of stars, he carved our initials into a cedar stump. Corny as hell. He laughed, but his eyes shone earnest. I snapped a photo, the firelight gilding his profile, and for a moment the world was watertight. Then betrayal sluiced in, cold and unrelenting. It was a Tuesday, rain sheeting the courthouse steps as I ducked into a coffee shop for a hit of sanity. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Ask your plumber about Mark, before it's too late. A friend. Attached, a photo. Riley and Mark, locked in an embrace outside a Tacoma dive bar. Time-stamped last weekend. My stomach plummeted, coffee spilling hot across my knuckles. I drove home in a daze, the wipers slashing like accusations, pulling into the drive just as Riley's truck rumbled up. He hopped out, tool bag swinging, oblivious. Hey, babe. Radiators humming again, but thought I'd check the... Words died as he saw my face, the printout clutched like evidence. Alex? What's wrong? I thrusted at him, voice a whip crack. This. Explain. His color drained, scar blanching white. It's not. Shit. He showed up, drunk, begging for help. I got him a room, that's all. Swear on my dad's grave. But the photo lied louder, arms too tight, faces too close. We argued in the kitchen, voices rising over the patter of rain. Me hurling doubts like wrenches. Him defending with pleas that cracked on the edges. You think I'd throw this away? Us? He shouted, gesturing wild. After everything? I laughed, bitter as bile. Everything? Or just till the next flood? He recoiled like I'd struck him, eyes welling. I love you, damn it. More than I knew how. But trust, once ruptured, floods fast. He left that night, truck peeling out into the storm, taillights swallowed by sheets of gray. The house echoed emptier than before. Every creak a reminder of absence. Every drip from the faucet a mocking echo of how it started. I threw myself into work, cross-examining witnesses with a ferocity that earned nods from the DA's office, but nights were war zones. Tossing in sheets that still held his scent, replaying that photo like a glitchy film reel. Friends noticed. My roommate from law school, Lena, cornered me at a happy hour in Pioneer Square, nursing her gin and tonic. You look like hell, Harper. Spill. I did, haltingly, the words tasting like rust. She squeezed my arm. People screw up. Doesn't mean the pipe's busted for good. But pride is a stubborn seal. I changed the locks. Not literally, but emotionally, bolting doors I'd cracked open for the first time since Jordan. Riley texted once. Please. Coffee? Let me explain. Deleted. Another. Miss your laugh. Miss you. Ignored. Spring teased the edges. Cherry blossoms dusting queen and like confetti. But my world stayed winter-wrapped. Cases piled. A trans kid facing eviction. An immigrant dad railroaded on assault. Their stories bled into mine, fueling late-night rants to the ceiling. Why do we break what's trying to hold? Mark surfaced like flotsam a week later. A mutual from the UW crew, some barista I'd known peripherally, slid into my DMs. Heard about you and Riley. Mark's crashing at my place, total mess. Says he stirred shit to test the waters. 'Cause he's still hung up. Rage boiled, hot and clarifying. I drove to the address in Ballard. A squat walk-up reeking of weed and regret. Mark answered shirtless, beard unkempt, eyes bloodshot. Alex? Shit, man. Save it? I snapped, shoving past into the dim living room, posters peeling like old skin. He slumped on the couch, cracking a beer. Look, I fucked up. Riley and me. We were toxic. I thought dragging him back would fix me. But he's gone on you, dude. Like, lights out gone. His laugh was hollow, a cough chasing it. Jealousy's a bitch. Sorry, don't cut it, I know. We talked, raw and ragged, him spilling about job loss, depression's grip, how Riley had pulled him from the brink once before. He's the fixer type. Can't help it. By dawn, as gulls wheeled over the sound, I felt the thaw. Not forgiveness, but understanding. Betrayal's floodwaters recede, leaving mud to sort through. I didn't call Riley. Instead, I fixed the house myself, YouTube tutorials and a trip to Home Depot, wrestling flanges and flex lines till my hands blistered. Each twist was therapy, sweat stung and satisfying. Lena dragged me to a Pride mixer in the Central District, thumping bass and rainbow flags snapping in the breeze. There, nursing a seltzer, I spotted him across the room. Riley, cornered by well-wishers, his smile strained. Our eyes locked, and the crowd parted like a script. He approached slow, hands shoved in pockets. Hey! Hey! Awkward as adolescence, but his eyes, those storm-gray anchors, held steady. I owe you the truth, he started, voice cutting through the din. Mark showed up that night. Wasted, talking suicide. I got him safe, but yeah, we talked. Old shit. I told him we're done, have been since you. He pulled out his phone, text scrolling. Boundaries set, a referral to a counselor. I should have looped you in. Trust goes both ways. I nodded, throat tight. It hurt. Felt like the floor gave out. He stepped closer, thumb brushing my wrist. Let me rebuild it. Please. We didn't kiss. Not there, not yet. Grabbed greasy tacos from a truck outside, sitting on a curb as the city pulsed around us. Stories tumbled. My fears of repeating Jordan's fade out. His of being the perpetual handyman in love's half-built house. I want the full Reno, he said, sauce on his chin. You and me, foundations and all. Laughter cracked the ice, and by the time we parted, his hand lingering on my doorframe, it felt like possibility, not peril. Summer ignited slow, a simmer building to blaze. We dated proper. Ferry rides to Bainbridge, picnics in Gasworks Park with kites whipping overhead. He met my folks via Zoom. Charming mom with tales of his uncle's infamous chili cook-offs. I met his sister, a tattoo artist in Olympia, who sized me up over IPAs and declared, "You make him light up, city boy. Don't dim that." Intimacy deepened. Not fireworks, but hearthfire warm. Bodies learning rhythms like favorite songs. One August eve, as meteor showers streaked the Olympics, we lay on a blanket in my backyard, his head on my chest. "What if we make it official?" he whispered, fingers tracing my ribs. "Not rings yet, but us." My heart stuttered. Yeah, us. But climax loomed. Thunderhead dark. Riley landed the contract, a green retrofit for a community center in the CD, his dream gig. Excitement buzzed, but so did pressure. Deadlines tight, budget razor thin. Mark vanished from the picture, checking into rehab upstate, a clean break. Yet doubt's residue lingered. Late calls from site supers had me pacing, imagining echoes of old floods. The breaking point crashed in September, harvest moon fat and foreboding. I came home to a dark house, Riley's truck absent. A note on the counter. Emergency job in Tacoma. Mark relapsed, families calling in favors. Back soon. Love you. Panic surged, irrational but ironclad. I drove, rain-slicked roads mirroring my mind's skid. The address was his childhood home, a sagging rancher on the hill overlooking the Narrows. Lights blazed, voices spilled out. His sister sobbing, an aunt murmuring prayers. Riley met me at the door, face ashen, flannel untucked. "Alex, he didn't make it. Overdose. They found him this morning." The world tilted, grief's wave crashing mutual. I held him as he shattered, sobs racking that solid frame, rain mingling with tears on the porch. "I should've fixed it," he gasped, fists clenched. "One more try." We sat vigil through the night, Coffee going cold, stories of Mark weaving a tapestry of loss. His laugh like thunder, his hugs bone-crushing, his demons unrelenting. Dawn broke brittle, and in the quiet, Riley looked at me, broken open. I can't lose you two. Promise me. Grief's current pulled us under, but we surfaced together, battered but buoyant. The funeral was a Tacoma affair. Steel skies, bagpipes wailing over Commencement Bay. Mark's buddies in flannel eulogizing the wild heart we'd all failed to tether. Riley spoke last, voice steady as rebar. He was chaos and color, the guy who'd drag you to midnight hikes or fistfights for justice. We loved him fierce, and that's the fix that lasts. I stood beside him, hand secret in his pocket, anchoring. Back in Seattle, we mourned messy. Nights of silence and shared silences, days of hammering out the community center's bones. Me tagging along with blueprints and bad jokes. Healing humanized us, stripping illusions to essentials. Riley's contract soared. The center opened in November, a beacon of solar panels and salvaged wood. Hosting job fairs and art classes for the neighborhoods overlooked. He got offers, big firms sniffing his talent, but stayed local, starting that eco-outfit with a partner from the crew. Roots over reach, he'd say, kissing my temple over Morning Joe. I took the adjunct gig at UW, lecturing on equity law to wide-eyed undergrads, their fire reminding me why I fought. Jordan texted once more. A wedding invite from Portland, all gloss and glee. I forwarded it to Riley with a single emoji. Trash can. His reply, our table's set for two. Always. Winter wrapped us gentle this time. Holidays a handmade haven. We strung lights on the bungalow's eaves. Riley cursing the tangles while I snapped photos, his scowl melting to grins. Christmas Eve, snow dusting the sound like rare sugar. We exchanged gifts by the tree, him. A leather-bound journal inscribed, for the stories we'll build. Me, a custom wrench etched with fixer of hearts. Dinner was his chili, spicy, soul-warming, eaten cross-legged on the rug, Coulter wall crooning low. To flood survived, he toasted, eyes soft. And the ones we'll weather. Spring bloomed defiant, cherry petals carpeting the paths to our runs along the locks. Betrayal's scar faded to silver, a reminder etched but not defining. We talked futures, not frantic but foundational. A joint cabin share up in the Cascades, maybe fostering down the line, kids or pups or both. One golden May afternoon, atop Cary Park with the skyline sprawling like a love letter, he dropped to one knee again. This time with a ring, simple tungsten band glinting. Alex Harper, you're my blueprint, my flood, my home. Marry me? Laughter choked with yes. I pulled him up, kissing him fierce as the city watched. The wedding was summery. A backyard affair in the CD, friends in seersucker and sundresses. Lena officiating with vows that had us sniffling. Riley's sister inked matching tattoos, tiny wrenches on our wrists. While my folks danced awkward to Motown, Dad whispering, proud of you, son. We honeymooned on the San Juan Islands, kayaking emerald waters, nights in a lighthouse keeper's cottage where stars drown the dark. Their bodies and souls synced deeper. Love a verb we conjugated daily. Years folded like well-worn maps. The bungalow grew. A nursery for the rescue mutt we named Leak. Bookshelves doubled for Riley's how-to guides mingling with my case law tomes. Conflicts came. My tenure push clashing with his expansion bids, arguments flaring hot then cooling to clarity. But we fixed them, tools of talk and touch. Betrayal? A chapter closed, its lessons the mortar holding us. In quiet moments, watching him tinker in the garage, scar catching light, I'd marvel. From a burst pipe to this, a life plumbed true. And in the end, as autumn leaves swirled once more, we'd sit on that porch swing, hands laced, the house humming content. Hired a plumber once. I'd tease, nudging his shoulder. He'd grin, pulling me close. Best damn decision you ever made. The world turned, leaks and all. But we were watertight. Two men, mended and whole, proving love's the ultimate retrofit.